that moment of George Floyd was utterly indescribable. What have been your employees' reactions? What have been the discussions, if you can share them, around the senior management team at Airbnb on this particular event?
It is gut-wrenching to watch. I'd say, deeply saddens so many of us. And I think that for Airbnb, having gone through the work that we had with discrimination in housing, unfortunately, it was not surprising that this sort of event could still happen. What we hope is that it will be a moment, that a moment that will get people to focus in a meaningful way on the need for change and the need for racial equality in this country. Sometimes it takes a moment to get everyone's attention really fully focused on a problem. And it's our hope in the discussions we've had internally at Airbnb, it's our hope that this is a moment, that that video is so powerful and so sickening that it's now hard to turn away from the problem of racial inequality in this country. So I also think that we are becoming increasingly connected as a world. You know, the internet is just the start of it. Look at the virus. Look at climate change. It is becoming harder and harder for us to focus on our own narrow interests and our own lanes, focus just on making money this quarter, or focus just on our individual problems, because all of our problems are connected. We can't simply solve a problem by thinking about ourselves. And I think that the issue with racial justice in this country is yet another example of you can't have justice in the world until we really have racial justice in our country. Just like we can't solve climate change by focusing on one narrow area. We all have to work together. We all have to contribute to this.
Well, I certainly share your word sickening. And I have to say, I've asked myself repeatedly in the last couple of weeks, what will it take? And why wasn't the lesson learned last time or the time before that or the time before that? Some of the lessons that we take into companies, there's a lot of talk about unconscious bias. I'd like to say today that I don't believe that any of this was unconscious bias. There is unconscious bias, and there's a place for training, and it is critically important, particularly in large organizations or in organizations like yours that enlist ordinary consumers in a wonderful way as hosts and as guests. We're all guilty of unconscious bias. There's nothing in my view that was unconscious about that. I don't get stopped by the police in that way. So any attempt to call any of that unconscious bias, I find utterly exasperating.
That video shows that we have an actual bias problem still in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
That has to be addressed.